Hey guys, Esquire Codex here. I'm going to play 99 levels to hell today. This may be a one-off. I don't know if I'll play this again. But I saw it on Steam and I thought I'd give it a try. Check it out. Do you see something? Or do you not see something? I have finally gotten rid of my Bandicam watermark. So what I was talking about last video is that I have finally went out and bought a proper recording program, so you don't have to stare at that very unprofessional and distracting Bandicam watermark in the back all the time. But so I got DX Tori and using that now. Much better, I'd say. And anyways, so done with school for the year, and I came home and I'm like, hey, I'm going home. That should mean I'll be able to actually get videos out quick. You know, I don't have to be in a dorm room, you know, worrying about that as a hindrance to making videos. And sure enough, I get home and we don't have internet. My dad had shut that off while I was off at college, and so that was a big hindrance to making a video. Because you know, I can't really upload much without, oh goodness, the boss already. I was not wanting this. You can't really upload anything. You can't. Wow, I totally zoned out thinking that I'm gonna straight up die. But you can't upload anything without internet. I believe that's what I'm trying to say. Do you concur? But we got our internet back, so I'm uploading. Basically, I'm gonna die here because there's no way I'm gonna beat this guy. So in my last video, I was talking about Washington, A Life by Chernow. And I had only read a couple hundred pages then, and I did finally finish the book. It took me about a month. It's a long read. It's 800 pages, but those are packed pages, and there's a lot in there. And I don't know if I mentioned this in my last one, how I had that book sitting on my shelf for a long while, and I was like, ugh, I really want to read this biography on Washington, but it's long, and I know it's going to be a big time commitment, and there's so many books out there, other books I want to read, so should I go for it? So, you know, it took me a year or so, but I finally said, yeah, you know what, do it. I'm going to read it. And it was a time commitment. It took me a year, but I am happy I read it. Excellent biography. Totally recommend it to you guys. I would say it's a premier biography on Washington. I mean, of course, I can't compare it to any others. It is the only biography of his I have read, but easily recommend it. Chernow was excellent writer. Like, I thought it was kind of fun when it got to the end of the book and Washington was in his final illness and he was about to die. Like, I felt suspense and I felt like sadness. I'm like, no, don't let him die, don't let him die. Even though, you know, he was born 200 years ago, so I was pretty confident he wasn't still alive, you know, otherwise he'd be like 250, 300. But just the way he had written and the way Chernow had gotten me invested in the book, in the life of Washington, I was feeling sadness at his death, even though it was a foregone fact that he was going to die. And that's, I think, one thing writers of biographies, you know, they try and go for. Oh, I knew that was the boss level. I didn't want to do this. They want they want to invest that reader, and they want to make it like a fiction story almost, because they just want to engage the reader to that extent. And I think it's pretty great that Ron Chernow succeeded at that, at least for me. Let's see. I already talked about a little bit last time about how I was really amazed at Washington, the man. He's a man to replicate your life after. Great character and all. Yeah, I didn't want to fight the boss there. Knew that was going to end bad. Another interesting thing is, this is just random, but he has feats of strength. Like, he reminded me a lot of Jean-Jacques from Les Miserables. Actually, a lot like him. He had that nearly, well, not perfect, but you know, that great character of always doing right, and the same as Jean-Jacques. And then what really first made me think of Jean-Jacques is in his youth, Washington had these feats of strength, like, you know, in Les Miserables, where the cart falls on the guy and Jean-Jacques comes out and he lifts it up like an incredible cart filled with stones. And Washington, your same thing. Like, people would say he would lift these huge logs just that 2 men couldn't carry, and he would do it, you know, like effortlessly. So that was an interesting comparison. Another thing about Washington's presidency is his first presidency went nearly all right. Not much anger from anyone. Everyone was pretty happy with him. But by the second presidency, man, politics had become full force in America. I mean, I know today we think of politics like just full of corruption, and just when you think of politics and all that, you just kind of like And by the second term, Washington is almost like that. Another thing is, like, in his farewell address, he talks about don't split into parties. So we always kind of, at least for me, kind of think of, there weren't parties yet, but Washington saw them coming, and he's like, no, don't do that, like, no political parties. But he was saying that from experience. Already in his second term, the nation was very rigidly split into Federalists and Republicans, and I didn't realize that had occurred already during Washington's second term. But man, politics was brutal back then. Like, once again, we think politics now is brutal, and it is, but back then, the newspapers, they spoke their mind. They did not care. Like, they didn't want to flower their words any. They just said what was on their mind, and they said it straight. Like, I got an example. This is from the Aurora newspaper, which was originally National Gazette, and it was a thoroughly Republican newspaper. Whereas Washington, though he never publicly stated himself as a Federalist, he was leaning more on the Federalist side. And so this Aurora, the newspaper, they would be Republicans. So in the second term, they were staunchly against Washington and his policies. So here I'm going to read something they said after Washington had announced his retirement, that this is in his second term, that he was not going to run for election again. Here's what the Aurora said. They said, "Every heart in unison ought to beat high with exultation that the name of Washington from this day ceases to give a currency to political iniquity and to legalized corruption." So, now that's not a cruel statement, as I read plenty others from newspapers that are just straight up cruel, like straight up mean. their name calling and all. But what that does show is the newspapers just how straightforward they were. They're like, we don't like Washington. We think he is full of corruption and leading this nation astray, and that's what we're going to say. And at this moment of retirement of a great man who has sacrificed much for our country, we're going to straight up shove it in his face and say, good, get off to your farm. Go stay at Mount Vernon. We don't want you here. And I just feel like that's not something we see in the media today. I mean, sure, media outlets, they have their sides. CNN is with the left, Fox is with the right, and that's how it is. You know, they don't necessarily try and hide that, but I don't know, they don't straight up say mean things, I feel like. I suppose you could probably argue that, but one thing I wouldn't expect is for these first newspapers in the first hours of our nation, when we were all gung-ho about America and our new freedom, I wouldn't expect them to already have this hatred in politics. But it was there. It was there full strong, and they're spewing their venom. So I thought that was really interesting. Anyways, I'm gonna close out on this video. Whoa, level up, sweet. I'm gonna close out on this video, and perhaps I'll play another 99 levels to hell. I don't know. This was just kind of a one-off game. I didn't really know what else to play. But, and then also they'll possibly talk more about Washington. I wrote a review on Goodreads about Washington, this story, and there was a lot I wanted to talk about, and it's just like as I started writing, the words took me places, and now after I wrote that review, I keep thinking of other things I would have wanted to say. So I might go back and edit that review. In the same way, I might come up with more things I want to talk about in this video, in these videos. So I may talk more about Washington then. I am also reading Ulysses by James Joyce, and I'll be starting Les Miserables as well this week, so those could be topics coming up. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.